Uncle Ron stuff. Today's episode is draining your hot water heater. And I'm not sure do-it-yourself is even applicable anymore. I don't, with the way things are going, I think some people become specialized to the extent that they can pay somebody else to take care of things for them, like draining water heater. I don't want to learn how to drain water heater. I don't want to do it. Anyway, there are still people around who either don't have the money, which is usually the case, to pay somebody else for it, or they just feel they gotta do, if I own it, I ought to know something about it, and everything needs maintenance. So, water heater, hot water heater, they can come and be electric, or they can be natural gas. I'm not sure. There's another variation. There's a smaller, quick, um, uh, instant hot water heater, which I think is probably electric. But nonetheless, if you have a water heater, 25 gallon, 50 gallon, 75 gallon, or whatever it is, it really should be drained of its water once a year. And you go, well, I never heard of that. Well, water coming from the municipality or the well or wherever it's coming from, it picks up various dirt, something, either off the lines it's being pumped through or uh, coming up through the filtering system, however it was done. It is in there. Maybe only one piece of dirt per 100 gallons, but over a year it mounts up, and it all winds up settling at the bottom of your water heater, and stays there because the water heater usually drains into your house, if you want to call it drain. It's pressured into your house from the top. So sediment builds up in the bottom, and in case of a natural gas furnace, the bottom is what is heated, so that heating, that flames off the burner, have to make their way, all that heat has to make their way through whatever sediment is at the bottom of your tank. Um, and so it's helpful periodically to clean that out. Now, I live in an area where I want to call it lime. I don't know what it is. There's a lot of something in the water, chemical in the water, and it will leach out of the water and stick on stuff. I have green copper looking fixtures attached to sinks and tubs and things like that. And it is definitely in the bottom of a hot water heater. There is, besides draining, there is what's called, I think, an anode. I don't know. There's a rod that goes down through the center of the water heater. And that rod, it does something chemically with the water, and it will dissolve over a period of time, or it will break, or something else. And that has to be replaced periodically. Now, I won't be looking at that for another 3 or 4 years, but they do have to be replaced. Sometimes the hot water unit will fail because that rod has broken off and is clogging up stuff at the bottom. Anyway, this whole video will be about how to drain one. It's generic, and that water heaters vary all over the place. As I said, they can be electric, they can be gas, they can be different sizes, various gas ignition type systems. I have a push button sparker that does it. Others may have an electrically driven sparking unit, or maybe you even have to light it with a match. That's possible in some of the older units. Most all do include a drain faucet at the bottom so you can drain the tank. Now, they put it there for a reason, because you do need to drain the tank periodically. That's enough of an intro. I'm now going to try to use my video cam to show you my tank and how I'm going to go about doing it. It's not a difficult task. In summary, you need to turn off the cold water input to the water heater tank. You don't want any new water coming in when you're trying to empty it. 2, you need to turn off the burner, and that means probably using the gas valve that's installed in the burner all the way over to off. I also suggest there's probably a valve in the gas line. You can turn that off. So there's absolutely no gas going to the unit at all. And then finally, you want to open up one or more of the faucets in your house so you have the tank has access to air at the top so it will drain properly out the bottom. And finally, you connect a hose onto the faucet connection at the bottom, and it may have a handle on it that you open up, or it may require a flat blade screwdriver to open up that valve. You're going to need either buckets or a length of a yard hose. I have a length of yard hose that goes out my garage door and goes down to an actual catch basin that carries the water off the property. I have done extensive sort of water management. So I don't have any problem dumping water. If you have a floor drain, you can do it there. Otherwise, you got to catch it in a bucket and then empty the bucket. But that's really all there is to it, to draining it. And once it's drained, act like there's no more water coming off of it. Then you need to flush it. And how you do that is you're gonna turn. You could leave the inside open valves and their sinks and stuff open, but turn back on that cold water valve and let water spill down into the tank while you still have the hose connected, and run a bunch of water through it so it will pick up some sediment in the bottom and flush it out. No matter how you drain, usually the drain is setting an inch or 2 or 3 perhaps above the bottom of the tank. So just by draining down that level, you still got 2 or 3 inches of tank that has sediment in it. And that's where you want to flush that out if you can. So you're going to turn the cold water and stick some cold water in there, and maybe shut it off and try to drain out some, and then do it again. Put more water in, then drain it out, and do it again. 3 or 4 flushes, maybe, to get some of that sediment in the bottom out of your tank. Besides the sediment taking up space in your tank, and also from a natural gas tank position, it will eliminate that stuff that's laying in there that will absorb heat and doesn't let the heat get up into the water that you want heated. So it is important to drain your tank ever so often. I think it's about a year and a half since this tank was installed. This is the first time I've drained it. I will keep a record of it and try to do it every year or so. That's enough for now. I'll show you the tank and go through the steps I've basically defined. I'm going to shut off the cold water input. I'm going to open up some valves in the house and sinks. I'm going to shut the natural gas controller mounted on the front of the water tank off. I'm going to shut the natural gas valve off. I'm going to make sure that the gas cannot come on and there's no leaks. Then I'm going to open up that valve at the bottom and let that tank drain out outside. That's it for this. Today is I think it's the 18th of October, 2025. And I'll reinforce what's behind me here. I'm always learning stuff. It's amazing. The amount that can be learned is so far beyond even my ability to learn. But I don't stop. I keep trying to learn it, understand it. And I think the whole point is collect what I call meta-knowledge. That is knowledge about knowledge. Whatever I do on this, and whatever I do on that, there are things at the top, such as how you approach a problem, that get codified or stretched or made wider because of the more and different varied things that you've tried to do. And the only way to learn anything, I think, is try to do it. Books, that's a good starting place, but doing it, there is no substitute for actually doing it. That's my preaching of the day. I'm sorry. I will get back and add clips to this in a minute. I hope it's recorded with volume. Okay, Uncle Ron stuff. Here is my hot water heater located in the garage. And yours may vary in size. This is a 70 gallon. I have 4 kids. When they come by and the grandkids, I need all 70 gallons of water. But the things I want to note out is there at the top on the left hand, there's 2 pipes, one for hot water coming out and one for cold water going in. And on the cold water coming in, there is a valve that I'm going to shut off. Then down here, right there is the thermostatically controlled natural gas burner control. And you can't see it very well, but the natural gas line comes up, and that's this silvery pipe coming over to here. And down here in this corner, I'll come up closer to show it now. There you can see a drain fitting. This happens to be a screwdriver open and closed version. We'll come a little closer on the, this is an gas again. So I have settings, and up here on the top there is a setting. This is marked pilot light. This is marked off. This is the arrow we're talking about up here. And this one is set to on. So it's currently on. This is the igniter button for the burner. And I have taken off the cover that sets over the burner. And in yours, at least in mine, I do have a hole that you can look into, and there is the blue flame is a pilot light that is running all the time. So this valve is thermostatically controlled right here. There's a thermostat sticking into the tank attached to this. It's monitoring the temperature that you have said you wanted via this dial. And when it gets below that, it triggers gas through this line into the burner down here, and that pilot light fires it up. Okay, that's an overview. Now, what I told you I'm going to do is I'm going to close the hot water valve way up at the top. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and shut down the gas line, so I can't have any heating going on while I'm trying to fill it. And first thing I do is I come around here, and it says pilot lighting. And now I'm going to take, and I think it's a, no, it's just a turn. I don't want that. I want to get this knob all the way around to off. There it is. I had to sort of depress this, push down, you push this down and hit that trigger to get the pilot light to come on. But to come it down and go over, I had to push it down a little bit. And I now have, and if you were to look in the burner hole, you don't see a pilot light anymore. And then finally, there is a shut-off valve down here on the natural gas, and that has been turned off. So I'm not getting any natural gas from here. Nothing is coming up to the controller here. I have turned it completely off from my thermostat point of view, and I have set this guy all the way over. Should have been all the way over to off. Yep, it hits right there. See this hits that on the metal, so it is all the way off. So I'm ready to drain it, and what I need to do is I have a copper, there it is, I have a copper cover over the drain valve in case the valve failed. I don't want water coming out of this guy. And what I'm going to do is I have a garden hose that runs out to a drain. I'm going to attach my garden hose. Maybe hand tight will be good enough. I don't know. So once again, I think that's good enough. So all I need to do now is to get a flat blade screwdriver and open this valve up. I have not opened up any valves on the inside of the house, but I have all of this shut down. I have no pilot light and I have no natural gas. So I'm going to open up some valves inside, and then I'm going to take a flat plate and open this up and start draining the valve. This is part one, and I may have another part two. I'll show you how to flush it. Okay, I have opened this valve, and it took a pretty good size flat blade to open it up. It's in there pretty hard, but it's opened up. It's not leaking here at my hose connection. And I have opened up a couple faucet hot water valves in the house, not cold, just the hot line, because that's all you're really dealing with. And everything else is ran. I'll show you outside where it's draining now. Okay, this is my hose coming out of my hot water tank, and you can see, I'm gonna zoom in on it. You see the water coming out of the tank. I have it draining into a underground piping system I have, but you could just drain it on the ground. You can see, I don't know if you can see some steam coming off of it or not, but it is definitely hot water. And it's going down in there. When I created this pit here, the water doesn't have to go, it goes in a drain if it fills up to that point. Because I have a condensing furnace, and the AC condensate line come up underneath of there where my pipe is coming down, flows down this, and then goes into this pad of rock with my hose attachment, with my collection basin on it. So that's how I do it, but you could just run a hose outside anywhere. It is hot water, but I don't think it would, you don't want to dump it around plants, I don't suspect, but other than that, that's all there is to it. And I have the valves open on the inside, so it should drain most all of the water out of it, and I'll wait till it does before I start the flushing operation. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes so far, and I moved my hose over to another catch basin I had right here in my same pit. I covered up my other one with leaves, but nonetheless, I wanted to make sure that my other catch basin that deals with water coming down from the condensate line over here. Doesn't want to focus my finger very well. But the point being is it's taken 10 minutes so far and still hasn't drained completely. And I told you it was 70 gallons, and the drain speed will depend on the size of your hose. I think this is 3/4 inch or maybe the next size down drain hose, but it's still draining, and I moved it to these to help flush them out. They connect to the same hose that I had that thing sticking up collecting water. But anyway, I'll try to get an idea of how long it's going to take and eventually tell you about that. Okay, it's still draining, and what I did to help the drain go a little faster is I've opened up the overpressure valve that's always on a hot water heater. Let's see, that's closed, and this opens it up. 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 You want it right in the middle like that, and that lets more the air that's inside the tank to come out the bottom of this. There's always some risk when you open up that pressure valve that it may start leaking right here. This is new enough, I think I'll be okay with it. But there is a possibility, and if that's the case, then this has to be replaced. And it's not a major deal because it just threads in, but hopefully you won't have that problem. And if it does start leaking, you can pop this back and forth a few times, and maybe that'll get the sediment out of it, and it won't leak at the bottom. Usually when I have these things, I install them. I do not run them all the way to the floor. I run it so I can put a bucket underneath of it, because if it ever failed, I don't want it shooting really hot water out the bottom of this pressure relief valve. But anyway, I've opened it up to help the drain a little faster. It's now been about 25, almost 30 minutes of draining, and it's still draining down to the level of the of the hose connection, which is sets right here, and the tank bottom is down here someplace, because the burner, if I feel up in here, yeah, the tank bottom is about right here someplace. So it's close to the bottom, but could be sediment in this area, and that's what I'm going to try to flush out later. Okay, all of the water got drained out of it, and again, I have the pressure relief valve open. So what I did was, up there at the red handle, that's the cold water input, I opened that up for a while and let the tank fill up, and it began draining out again, and I let it drain out completely, and then I opened that valve up again and let some cold water come in. And of course, it comes in a lot faster than it drains out, but I finally could hear it gurgling, and I've done that twice. I've flushed it, if you will, twice, and so I'm ready to fill it back up again. And in this case, I put a bucket underneath of the overflow pressure gauge valve right here. So I'm going to fill it up until I start seeing a little water come out into my bucket, because I know I'm getting full. And once that stops, I will shut that valve off, and the water should then be forced out by cold water pressure in out to those faucets that I have open in the house at the sinks and so on. So I'm done with the draining portion, and I'm now going to start the refill. So I'm going to shut that valve off right there, take my water hose off, and proceed to fill it back up before I reignite the natural gas and the pilot light and fire it up again. But I'm going to let it fill up at least to the point where I get some water coming out of that pressure relief valve, because I know the water is at that point then. Okay, so I'm all done filling, and what I did, as I explained, I left this pressure overflow valve open until I got a little bit of water, and there's some in that little bucket down there. Not much, but it started coming out that, then I knew the water level was at least to that point. And I closed it off and left my inside faucets open, and they spit and popped air, and until the water was flowing constantly. Now I've now shut those down, so the system is full of water. I haven't heated anything yet, and that will, I don't know if that'll cause the drain to pressurize. Probably not. If I leave some sink open inside, the pressure will equalize eventually. Okay, so it's filled. As I said, I used this pressure overflow, and I caught it in a little bucket down here, and as soon as it started coming out, I shut it off. So now I'm going to fire back up the ignition system and the natural gas. Now I'm full of water. I'm going to restart the burner process. And the first thing I do is turn on the gas valve and line it up. Now I have natural gas coming up this pipe and going over to the thermostatically controlled valve here. And as I explained earlier, it's currently in the off position. If I turn it and push it and hold it down in the pilot position, then I can push the sparker button to get my pilot light down in that hole. I should be able to see it. So I'm going to use two hands and do that, but I'll show you. You have to hold down the pilot button and spark it a few times until it gets going, and then you have to hold it, the pilot light button, down for a couple seconds, I don't know, 10, 12, until a thermistor in there, I think that's what it's called, realizes it's got hot enough that the pilot light will continue to burn now. So I can go ahead and turn it all the way to light, and then I'll show you what goes on with the pilot light and the burner. Okay, you can't see it very well, but that bright light there is pilot light. It is going, and I held it down long enough and I sparked it, and the pilot light is going. And now I can turn this thermostat knob to the position I want it in, and the burner will hopefully kick on. It hasn't yet, and it probably waits some period of time after the pilot light is lit before it will kick. But it should kick on and start the burner, and I'll be able to hear it, and you should be able to hear it. Okay, I rotated this guy at the top here all the way right there. I rotated it all the way around to the run position like that. I have my thermostat set at very hot, or C, which happens to be for what we need. And then if I look in, you can see the burner going. That's what it looks like when the full burner is going. So I should be full of water. I will open up the drain valves inside for a while, and this thing is going to heat up, pressurize some water, and I'll have open up some valves to let the water flow. And I think we're back in business again. So I've now flushed a water tank, a 70-gallon water tank. I think I've shown you everything that's applicable. The main pieces are over here all the way off. You got to push it down and hold it in the pilot position while you hit the sparker unit a couple times. And once it does light, you have to continue to hold this for a while, and then you can slowly let off, and the pilot light stays lit. You're good to go. You can rotate this around to the on position like that, and you can set your thermostat to what you want it at. And the burner is going, as you can see. And this little cover here that goes over it, you can see it just snaps in. It does have a hole for screws, but there's no holes in the sheet metal out here for a screw to go through. So I don't know what, design they changed, something or another. That's it on flushing a hot water system. I probably won't do it for another year, but it's a good idea to do it once a year or every 2 years or something. I didn't see a whole lot of sediment coming out of it when I flushed it, but I wasn't watching the drain hose constantly. So that's it. Uncle Ron's stuff. This was about draining and flushing your hot water heater. This happens to be a natural gas, but the same would be similar on an electric. I hope it helps somebody.